Well, it goes back a long way, but it's hard. You see what Gary's like now, but when I was
A kid.
a kid, I really, yeah, I was the bag carrier for sure, and well, I used to get my mum, because my mum's always right, every because I've never driven, still don't the same now, and she'd drop me to Henlow Dogs the night before Cheltenham and and Derek Burrows was he was a step up from you, Gary, wasn't he?
I
He
used
was
to work with him, yeah, that's
yeah,
how I
he was,
started, yeah.
and he was if you were if you're an apprentice to them guys, and it was John Power as well, wasn't it? And we used to stay in the Gloucester Park Hotel, and
Remember that, yeah.
so
That was the day when I backed Norton's coins, and a pal of mine, I can't say who it is, but now he knows it. He done all the, he arranged all the hotel for sort of stay. We had John Powell, I think his brother was there, Tom Jenkins, Harry was there. There was some right faces there. Anyway, on the Gold Cup morning, we was all going to the races on the Friday, went to get our car out. So, well, nearly said the name there. The man who was doing it, he never paid the
Come
bill.
on, tell us. No one's.
No, I can't. It's not. It's going out live on the thing.
It's not like
No,
we can edit it.
But what happened, John, is that he never paid the bill, so they wouldn't let. We couldn't get out. It was Gloucester Hotel and Country Club, wasn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
that's where we stayed.
yeah.
Anyway, it was. They wouldn't let us out to go until the bill was paid. So I think the bill was paid at 3:00. The first race was 1:30 at Cheltenham, and we was all watching the Gold Cup in the bar. And I managed to find the winner, Norton's coins, 200 to 1 each way. God, that was a touch.
So you guys, opposite sides of the fence. I mean, did you
It
ever?
was hard to beat.
Did you ever
couldn't beat
take
it.
each other on?
Oh,
Who won?
well, not really,
I mean,
because he was too clever.
No, it was a good. It was all punters and everything. Derek was a real tough man to beat. Not quite on the Tony Morris level, but he was hard.
So was you. Don't worry.
I remember a dog called Ricasso Hiker, one of my great sporting days. We'd do it at darts when you do better winner, and I was full of the flu, and they used to lay a book of Milton Keynes dogs, and I knew this dog, typical Milton Keynes six-bender, 490 fly machine at Wembley. And honestly, I never had a worse cold. I was in the bar, just goes back in the winter changes, yeah. And I have to watch the race. There was no commentaries. You had to be there, but they couldn't see me. So I had the three guys with the 200 quid each to bet the dog, and I managed to sneak into the cafe.
That way, yeah.
And the air was running and absolutely shitting, and that was like cut $2,000 from nothing. And the next day I felt like shit that night, but the next day we were coursing with Sir Mark Prescott, and it was the first time I went air coursing out with it. I've been to Clonmel, but I hadn't been out in air coursing I met Prescott, and we got on well, even though I knew him then, and that's probably when I met him actually, and that was all from that dog. If that dog ain't the one, there'd have been no coursing the next day with Prescott. And then that night, I'll never forget it. That night I had a great. It was covered in mud. We went to the darts, and it was Eric Bristow and Jockey Wilson, and that was at the Lakeside Country Club.
180.
They never stopped hitting 180s. They never. And I remember the chandeliers were bouncing. And I remember thinking, what a great fucking day this has been. And I remember thinking, yeah, just as well Ricasso Hiker won last.
You know what? I bet when you woke up in the morning with that $2,000 in your pocket, you felt better.
I was just saying, it was just like I say, it was one of the great memories.
Dettori.
Oh, John, I was enjoying myself.
No, he's
Denman, Dettori. Now, you told me something about Fujiyama Crest in the last of the Magnificent Seven. That was 30 years ago next year.
29. Again, next year. Sorry,
Next year?
Every year I remember it, John.
30 years ago, you said to me that you would have laid that horse even more than Gary did.
Well, to the absolute, because you'd have to. If everything you believe in is the math and the price, I remember the day. I remember it well, and I was on holiday, and I'd taken a break because I was really out of form, and the word had got round, and you could lay it. You could ring up and get lights, say, take me 20 grand out of this, whatever. And I lost 67. I was really going poor at the time, and I'd done 67 grand. And I remember thinking, as they crossed the line, it was a massive blow. But I remember thinking, that was the most I could lay it to. I was done everything I could to lay it. But ordinarily, if I'd have been at home and I would have. To do what Gary done was 100% the right thing on the maths.
And the only thing was, Harry, after on the Sunday morning, I was the biggest bastard in the world because all the other bookmakers said without me it would have been even money.
Yeah,
but it was a 20 to 1 chance in the morning.
Yeah, and
sorry about the swearing.
And don't forget, it ain't just that. He ain't laying his mates. It ain't like he's laying his mates £40 to 20. He's laying Ladbrokes. the people that I glue the shops up, 50,000 25s. You know, I don't know. I'd have been, because you're never going to get it again. You're never ever in the maths dictating the fact that all them winners and all the liabilities. When are you ever going to lay a 12-1 chance at 9-4?
But that was my chance, John.
Do we have to explain to one of our younger race goers
Oh, yeah,
what
sorry.
Vittori Day was? We know it.
No, the seven.
Yeah, I was.
Can you explain it very quickly?
Well,
I know it's hard, but
do it really quickly. But I used to live at Little Allwood, which isn't far from here. There was a point there, and there was a lovely big house there. And I said one day I'll buy it. And at the time I had nothing. Well, we've all been skint in their lives, me and Harry. I think everyone has. Who's here.
The PhD.
Started with nothing and finished up buying the house. And that day I was going to Worcester, and there was a big traffic jam on the M40. So my clerk rang up Peter out, and he turned around. I said, Pete, let's go to Ascot instead, and we'll try to nick a day's wages there. I think I had in my pocket, might have had $2,500 in my pocket to be a bookie. On the last race, Frankie Dettori rode 6 winners, and I was rolling it up. I was winning going into the last race, and what Harry said, the horse was 16-1, 20-1 in the morning. I could lay 2-1, 3-1. And my head went, and I lost 1.4 million. Now, bearing in mind, I only went there with when there were 2 rats. But it's what he said. I weren't laying you, Paul, or anyone else who was there, Mike, or anyone. I was laying firms that, really and truthfully, the Ladbrokes, the Hills, the Corals, you know, they were the enemies, weren't they? You know, my head went, and I thought, this is my chance here to get the money for nothing. And I've always loved the dinner. Usually, and I thought, fucking, I'm not having one dinner, I'm going to have 6 dinners here. And I laid it, and the first bet was 40 grand at 4.5-1 Corals, and then it went 4-1, 4. And in the first book I wrote, winning it back, on the back page, it's got all the statements. So I nothing's made up. And it was just one of them days. And I woke up on the Sunday, and I went there on the Sunday, and I went there and I stood 4 races. No one had a bet with me, and they said, don't bet with him, he won't pay. And that's the worst thing, Harry, that ever happened. The Saturday was all, I don't mind the Saturday. The Saturday was made me, but the Sunday, when people said, don't bet with him, and they were all walking past you, and then I got in the car. I never cried on the Saturday, but I cried on the Sunday because I thought, I'm fucked. No one's going to bet with me ever again. But little did I know that I've had 50 years now in the betting jungle to put new ones out, and people, I think the world, Harry, they love a loser, don't they?
Well,
you know.
I don't know. I think even I can explain the gambling side of it and how it is mathematically once in a lifetime. But I think people understand it anyway. I think people realise what was going on, and
it's like what you're doing with a tote. It's not, sorry, John, I'm butting in here, but what you're doing with a 10% tote, you're trying to give the public who come to the dog racing a chance to win. Because at the moment, when you go to the dogs and we've got the big tote, you've got the 30 and 40% out. What they should do is when you pay your money to get into the dog track, have someone there with a big bucket and put what you got in your pocket in the bucket, because you're going to come out with nothing, can't you, H?
And that message that Gary's just said is what everyone's father, grandfather, since the 60s is told, don't bet on the tote. It's the first thing you do, don't bet on the tote. But as you've seen with the price difference to it, you might not have seen them, but you'll soon pick it up, the difference with a 10% tote. It's greyhound racing has been so badly abused and devalued, and it's been so hard to get this. Paul Lawrence just sent me a text now. How's Mike managed to get it done so quickly? Because we've been trying for 5-6 years to do this. It was going to be done. Kevin Boothby, to be fair to him, was going to do it. Yeah, literally 4 and 5 years ago, and contracts and things wasn't happened. But now, thanks to Mike coming along and supporting it, it's going to happen. Not just, we're starting today, but we're going to keep it going right the way through to the Derby and beyond. And people will gradually realise that they can go to the dogs and win money. And so many people who go for the first time have their bet on the tote. If you've got 12 girls from the bank or whatever, the first thing they do is have £2 win. And if 19 times out of 20, when they do back a winner, they think, oh, that's a bit of a meagre return. I was expecting a bit better than that. And all that changes when you go from 30% to 10%. And when you do back a winner, 9 times out of 10, you'll be saying, oh, well, that's funny. It's paid 3-1 with the bookies. We got 9-2. And it will happen all the time. All the time.
And you pull people into the dogs then for a night out.
And that's it. Yeah, people, even Paul Lawrence, we've agreed with the low margin tote, but Paul Lawrence and I, who's a top greyhound industry man, he genuinely doesn't believe that that's got enough power to bring people back to the dogs. But it will, because of exactly what Gary said. If you go greyhound racing and win, It's very hard not to come back. That I can promise you that in stone. And the number of people who go ground racing for the first time, guessing and betting £2 a race, of every 100 that comes at the moment, less than 3% of them will win. And with just from going from 30% to 10, over 40% of them will win. Here's Seamus, a great dog. He was at Wembley. Seamus was chaining dogs, aeroplanes around Wembley 40 odd years ago. And of course, and he'll be saying, as he's walked out of the room, he'll be saying, fucking hell, he said, Harry's still going on about the same thing as he did to me. And his wife is a film star at Wembley, dogs in the 80s, a film star. And we'd stand at the bar having this very conversation. And then the tote was 16, 17. And Walthamstow was having it off because it was 14. That's why Walthamstow was one step ahead, because it was 3% less than anyone else.
Harry, you're talking about Wembley, right? You was the only person that I remember going there, and I was when you had your dog running, and everyone had a banana in the sked. Do you remember when you owned that dog? Do you remember that, Paul? Honestly, there was a day at Wembley, and Harry owned a dog called Chiquita Banana, and it was a champion, weren't it? But there must have been. I don't know if he bought the plastic bananas, but everyone's waving the bananas. But that was greyhound racing. And that's what people want, a night out and a bit of fun. And as you said, for the last 10 years, I'm not being funny, John, but you know yourself, you've seen how the game's gone from up there to down there. Yeah. And now, if we have got a chance to make it up there again, we've got to take it.
And the punters will see a difference today, moving forward throughout the Greyhound Derby.
Oh, mate, they'll see they'll see it. And people will come, the word will get around because people will just win. You know, you spreading the word's one thing, but it's just winning is it's hard to explain. And with greyhounds, what makes greyhound racing so? And I've owned Denman. Well, my mum owned Denman, and all the stress that going. It was brilliant, fantastic day. But owning greyhounds, if you're a greyhound man, is different level. You know, Kerry Head when she won at Slough the first time. I mean, you know, Chiquita, you're a dog person or you're not. But greyhound for betting, greyhounds are the ultimate animal. They don't have jockeys. They're so loyal. The leaders, you learn from them about life. You learn, pace. You become a good judge of horses from greyhounds is the best apprenticeship. Just ask Henry Cecil. Just ask all the top trainers anywhere. When I used to go with Don Cuddy in America, all the top horse trainers over there, the same. They learn from greyhounds. And that's what, back in the 1920s in America, they knew that it was the only sport they made for totalisator betting. They only sport because they knew that it would catch on. And we've just abused the math. And in any business, if you abuse the math, you're a million. And greyhound racing has butchered it since we were at Wembley and just gone like that. And now we're doing it for today. We're doing it for the next couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks up into the Derby. Mike will be marketing. It'll be going in the paper. People will talk to start winning. The pools will be massive. And I believe, and if I'm wrong, please believe me, I'm so retired. Mike's brought me back from the dead. Because Lifford's going great, but no one's respecting it like they should. They're taking the average punter at Shelbourne Park is spending £20 a night on the tote. The average punter at Lifford is spending €165 a night because they're winning and they're churning and they keep going back and there's money at the end of the night. And the great thing is, for this revolution to work, it ain't going to cost nothing. They switched the tote from 30 to 10 just like that. And they can do it at Romford. And when you get Romford on a 10% tote instead of, I think it's 34 there, 34, barbaric, because they round the prices down so that really it's 34, 38. So you're talking about 11 against 38%. Now, I know this is a bit technical, but you're dog people who know who we are. And that's that's the difference you're talking about. You see today, in my you haven't seen them in my tweets, but if you come to Towcester last week and you bet a dog returns 2 to 5 on the tote, today you'll get 4 to 5. If you bet evens, you'll get 13 to 8. And it goes on. 100 to 30 on becomes practically 8 to 11.
Don't you think, though, Harry? Right, I know what you're saying and you're trying to tell people having win bets and everything, but I'm very pally with Fred Doan, who's bet Fred, right? And he always said to me, Harry got his money and what he wants. When people have a low stake, he wants them to win big money. Now, the jackpot, we need a jackpot on the greyhound racing. We did, and you did it before. You had an £100,000 at Coventry, I mean, when you owned it. So what we need now, we've done this. You're doing
Oh,
it.
I
So,
do that in my
well,
sleep.
you want a jackpot.
You
Well,
made the scoop sit.
he made it. He was the king of the scoop sit.
Hey,
But
I
for
was-
people,
I
Harry,
was-
to lay out £2
Yeah.
that they come out with 10 grand to pick 8 winners on the dogs on one night, 8 races, a minimum of 10 grand, and that pool go up and up and up, and you could have an 100 grand pool again. That's what dog racing was. What you're saying about the 10%, you're getting 13 or 8 and even money chance.
Yeah.
For people who want to get money and win big money, John,
Oh,
for
you do need-
nothing,
you do
you
need a
need a
jackpot on the
jackpot,
dog.
and that's what you've got to concentrate on. I know you're doing good on the win,
Yeah.
but let's have a jackpot, John, where make people change their lives for a fiver or £2. That's what they got. I know it's hard, but you know every rule in
The
the
low margin tote and the jackpot.
jackpot,
That's
definitely.
The jack-
utopian idea for ground racing. Let me just, we can come back to this because
Good job we got you here, John.
no, not at all. There will be an opportunity for questions from
Yeah,
the
so
floor.
ask us some questions.
I just
rather-
want to ask you just a couple of things. Maybe Gary first. How did you come back?
It took me 4 years, John. I paid everyone back in 4 years, but it took me 4 years of hard graft. I was selling Christmas paper at Walthamstow Market, just trying to get back on my feet again. And but the thing is, like when I started up as a flower seller in the market, I used to go and buy daffodils at 10p a bunch, right? I used to sell them at 20p a bunch, double my money, right? What he's trying to do, Harry, right, is buy the daffodils at 10p and trying to sell them for 11p, 1 pence, right? Which is good. But as he said, all the other people who's trying to sell flowers, he's going to knock them out. They're going to go, right? And if he gets his wish and go to 10% of total dog racing, where you've got all the bookmakers who want to bet to 30%, 25%, 20%, I think they'll disappear, John.
No, I don't. I don't. That's
Well, they won't compete with you, will they, with a 10p?
they will. They will, because don't forget, 10p. It sounds great and it is great, but it is when you bet on the tote, you don't take a price, so that's a very slight disadvantage. And people do like to get their bets on early. Oh, don't worry, I'm an
That's true.
expert on this. Talking to me about this is like talking to Nureyev about dancing in the ballet. That's what it's like.
How about
have a
day off from
you
that
know,
today?
So I actually believe, and I think someone like Ben Keith, I think it will take him a couple of weeks to sink in. I think he's probably thinking it already. That no, it will bring. It brings at the moment, we all know you've got the bookies that are bad. The prices are real hard to beat, and you've got the exchange, which is just about everything. The mere fact that if you have a real strong 10% tote, which Towcester during the derby undoubtedly will, there's just no betting. You've got straight away, you've got a three-cornered market, and that is so much better than two in any form of in business or anything. But not only that, 3 really strong ones, and it's impossible that with a strong tote in the exchange that the bookies SPs won't get better for the punter. It's just impossible.
Well, you think it will, H?
Oh, of course they will. The only reason the gambling commission is screwing them at the moment. People can't deposit money. Their idea is hike up the prices. But like you say, they've got to get more odds. They want to compete. But the thing is, a strong tote makes their job easier. It makes their odds compete. These derby heats, I know I'm touched with. If it's not, I'm going to disappear. But I think there's going to be a massive, much more in. Not only will the tote be. Last year on final night, there was £10,000 bet on the tote on the win pool alone. People turning up here for a greyhound derby final, betting on a dog to win a race. They took 10 grand all night. This year, if there's no technical breakdowns, I'll be staggered if they don't take 300,000.
How much?
300,000.
Okay.
300,000. But I'm in with this one. I'm putting my cards on the table. It's live on TV. For me, I know the combination of greyhound punters, such a disrespected breed by everyone, including the industry, with their jacking up their prices. It's just insane how other sports come down while greyhound punters get the worst of the value all the time.
It's a bit of a jump, right? It's 10 grand to 300 grand, and you think...
Yes, because I'll tell you why, Gary. Because hands up anyone in this room who's had £20 more win bet on the tote on a dog in the last 10 years. Anyone who's done it. Anyone who's had £20 win on a dog on a tote in the last 10 years. That's one out there in the room. And hands up those who have had a tenner or more in the last 2 years. A tenner or more win on the tote in the last 2 years. Hands up now if from what we've said alone, in the next 7 or 8 weeks, you think you might have a tenner on a dog on the tote win at Towcester.
Hey, look at the hands going up. There you
Well,
go.
they are. That's about 14 to 1. Now, when we do this in about 6 weeks' time, it'll be 28 to 1. And when it goes over 30 to 1, that's your 10,000 into 300,000. But the good news is, I'm sure it will take 300,000. But one question you can't ask me is, what do I think it will really take? What do I think a Greyhound Derby here with a properly functioning tote? I won't say. I think it'll be very hard technically if we're commingling. I just think it'll be so big. But let's see if I'm
But
right.
saying that, Harry, right? So people back home, we've got people here today. They might not be able to travel over to the Greyhound Derby final. Can they have a better home on the tote? Because if they can, the numbers could be anything.
Could
Is
be
that
any-
what you're trying for?
Absolutely, that's the plan. And we've got UK Tote Group want to do it. We've got William Hill want to do it. But the only thing is, I mean, technically, we you know, I'm just scared of it being too big. I know it's a silly thing to say, but you got to tell. I always tell the truth. And but no, technically, that is the plan. But personally, from the personal point of view, if they said, "Oh, it can't be done in time," I wouldn't care, because during the Greyhound Derby, so many people are going to come up on course. If they can't get on off course, then there are going to be even more people coming here. And come final night, forget the 300 grand. I'll be selling it. I can't even tell you what might happen, and it'll all be here. And you can bet on debit cards. I mean, I know it's not credit. I don't know no one's credit bet, but debit. It's going to be amazing, because no hands, nobody even thinks about having 10 to 20 quid on a dog. But when you keep seeing the SPs, Bocco's Diamond today, when it won the Derby in Ireland, paid 1 to 2, paid 4 to 6 on the tote, or 4 to 6, and it was evens. 1.5 times better on the tote when it won the Derby final. And that was 12.5% instead of 22.5%. In England, the greed of the promoters. Oh, talk. Mike Davis, no. Rip it out, put 10% in, here we go. Let's find out if it works. And if it doesn't, you'll never, ever hear from me again, because only Mike Davis could have talked me into doing this, because he said, I'll do it. So I don't talk, you know. He rang me up. I said, how come you're not? He said, I wasn't ready before, but I'm ready now. I want a 10% tote. So let's go. And we've got the Greyhound Derby to do it. Fair play to Boothby. He wanted to do it 4 or 5 years ago, but you've probably got some other questions than that. And we'll see how this goes after today. And thanks for listening, because
We've got week 2, week 3.
We will make sure that we do this again, no problem. That there is a question I want to ask, and this is harking back to Denman and to the horse racing days. There was a point, Harry, when you were probably the most famous face in horse racing.
I was the biggest Marmite man in horse racing. I was the biggest
But
Funny enough, John, he lost my number as well.
days?
Oh yeah, of course. I look back on it very fondly. I mean, absolutely. I mean, of course, yeah. But when they come after you for laying your own horse for 9
Came after you in the end.
Oh, who do you think it was? Who do you think it was? It was all about. I'm not saying it. Paul Roy was. Everyone. It goes down as personal vendetta, but at the end of the line, he's the opposite. He's got 30% totes in me, and ripping people off and all that. And he was involved in the tote bid, and we were going to have this same tote that we use at Lifford. Through other people, we were going to do it in the UK. And what they done to me, the money they spent and how they done it, and then Coventry, of course, was just another level.
If that broke you out, then it.
Well, if I'd have bought the place, even now it would be. If I bought the place now and it never had the Greyhound Derby, I'd eat that TV. So, I mean, it's the best track in the world. It wasn't, now it's been completely gone with, but it was, that was a bigger blow than any final. That was the king.
Okay. I mean, you both share a massive passion for
We love the game.
sport, greyhound racing.
I wouldn't be here today. I'll be at Plumpton today making it, but we've got Bet Goodwin's representative. They're the biggest day of the year. When what Harry said about Mike, he's the only weird person really that's having a go. Again, well, John, you've been at the game a lot. You're asking us, you should be telling us what he's doing and what you're doing yourself.
We
see you are having a go.
The branding gone to the dogs is kind of very much under the umbrella of Greyhound Racing UK. And
I'll get on a Sky channel, John. You got.
I was going to ask you, those are your BBC with John Parrott, and then with Dave Smith, the Sky Sports days up and down the country.
Well, I turned the BBC in, and when the man John Thompson, he was the governor of BBC, and he said to me, "No one leaves us." And the BBC, and I said, no. I said, what it is, I made up all lies. I was 37 stone at that time. I never had the gastric sleeve that I had now, 24, done the weight. But when I was 37 stone, I was going up with a Sky, and you know, John, me and Noob on and that, we loved it, didn't we? You know, we used to stay at an hotel at Newcastle, honestly, there was a pie shop, man, where they made pies all night at Baker's, right? You've never seen anything. I never used to go to sleep, did I, John? I was round there 6 times I kept on waking up thinking like,
where's this
"Oh,
pie
man."
shop?
I was round the fucking pie shop 6 times a night. But that's what we had. We had a life on that Sky. But that's what you got to do with this. Gone to the dogs. You need Sky Channel.
Used to stay in Jesmond. That was
Jesmond, that was it, near Newcastle. But you've got to get on a Sky Channel. Let everyone see out the world. You know, we don't want 500 people watching it. What Harry said, he thinks to get £1 million here, Grandad. And you could do.
with the
With all the
jackpots.
jackpot, single, let everyone come. Let them play at home as well. But what we should have as well, where we said about UK, what we're going to do with Mike Davis' firm, why can't, Harry, is there a way that we could be the bookmaker as well that takes all them bets to tote? Or do you have to have the tote involved?
Oh, no, absolutely no, you don't need any. No, Mike, first thing Mike said to me was, I explained to him about rebate, and when he understood the rebate system, he was more offended by it than me, and that's not even possible. But he said, is your long-term goal to have all greyhound tracks having their own tote and their own? And absolutely.
Oh, that's the answer we want.
And Towcester,
Everyone wants that.
that's why I came to Kevin Boosby 5 years ago, because we know Lifford works. When Towcester takes off, Lifford's privately owned. That's 2 tracks. I should think half an hour with John Franklin, Simon Franklin, sorry, the great dog.
Yarmouth, could we have?
Yes, and there it goes on. They'll either copy it and do it themselves, but if they're clever enough, they'll get involved with perhaps Lifford and Towcester and do it privately and for greyhound racing.
So Gary's fondest days, it seems, you know, Sky Sports travelling around the country on the greyhound meetings and what have you, the big races. For you travelled all around the world punting. You were at tennis matches in Melbourne. You were, I don't know, Super Bowl or something. You never stopped, but you still were at the greyhound tracks, having it on up and down the country.
Oh, wherever, greyhound racing, wherever. I mean, I've been to a Super Bowl final. I got shafted on tickets about 3 years ago, and it was a horrible story.
I remember, H.O., you said when you got on a plane, you never turned right, did you?
No, not for a long time. No, and
You went to the left in the high class of seats. And
yeah, but no, abroad as well, dog tracks. I love wherever I go. I first went dog racing in Barcelona when I was 16, and that changed my whole life, because they had 3 tracks there then, and the characters there were from another planet in the late 70s and early 80s, and that's where my love of travel, food, and of course, you know, always dog tracks. I've been to all the tracks in Australia near enough. I haven't been to Ipswich, and it's going to close this year, and I'll be gutted if I don't go there. And I never went to the old Ipswich in England either, but now dog racing is my favourite thing.
And you have got incredible recall as well. So, yeah, Skirlow Champ and Ballyregan Bob trip off the tongue for us all. But Blue Merlin was a favourite of yours, wasn't he?
Yeah, when he won the Yarmouth Derby, there was no hedging in those days, no Betfair. I stood next to Jonathan Kay at the first bend. I said, if he wins, I've got 96 grand. I said, if he gets beat, I've got about 2 grand. And that was he was 11-8 to win the final. I backed him at 9-2, and he pissed up. Won a great race. I tried to buy him up. Peter Meldrum told me he was a machine. He saw him first time out. Not Peter Meldrum, the guy from Edinburgh. Yeah, Peter Meldrum. Yeah. He said, he says, Blue Merlin won 1 race at Yarmouth. I'm on the steps at Walthamstow, and I couldn't back him because I didn't know the dog. And I'm thinking 10-11, this Blue Merlin. I don't know whether to bet him or not. And Peter Meldrum said to me, he said, if you're ever going to bet, I was on in a maiden race. He said, bet this fucking aeroplane. I thought, that'll do for me. And then straight after the race, I went straight to the paddock to try and buy him. And the bloke who owned him was just a legend of a bloke. He goes, Harry, he said, you can't buy him. He said, he's mine. He said, you couldn't buy him for £1 million. He said, but every time he wins, come and see him. And he's a lovely dog. He had a loose jaw. He had a flappy jaw. And he said, and I got more pictures in the house in Sheffield, and I had more pictures of Blue Merlin than any of the dogs I owned. So you don't even need to own them to fall in love with you. But I needed him to win that night at Yarmouth.
Absolutely. I said
2 grand or 96, John. Is a bit of a.
I kind of thought
He won the best thing I've ever seen. Photo finish at Wembley. Rose's Opinion went round behind him, and Rose's Opinion was a 6.55 staying lunatic. And in running, Blue Merlin would have been 10-1 against. And I just knew he was going to get caught. And I'm right on the Royal Box line. I'm right on the line. and all the way round, I know that Rose's Opinion's going to catch him. And right on the line, bang on the line, she's just caught him. And I'm in the long bar, and I know he's beat. I would have bet 8 on Roses, and he said, result, Blue Merlin the winner. And I just was like a little Cheshire cat, because I was so sure that Rose, I remember all the races, inch by inch.
Wow. And we've not even got the Chiquita banana as well, which is, must be some of the most favourite memories of all.
Of all, yeah, definitely. That night with the bananas was a St Leger final at Wembley, and she was 2-1 favourite, and she couldn't win. John McGee said, I said, don't run her then. And I knew that, and it was a real surreal, horrible night, because you can't tell anyone that, because people like John Power around, and you just got to sit with her. And you told me in the car park, and they raced, the semi-final was a rerun, and it was in the fog, and they got fucked up at the pickup, and it was touch and go whether she ran. So to see all those people and know that really, and she flew to the corner and led, and then just got, and then run very average and got well beat. But
so that's not a particularly good memory.
No, but the memories of her. I said recently to you, when she won the Stewards Cup, the first big race as an owner when she won the Stewards Cup was more exciting than any horses or anything. And Chiquita Banana, I'll put a race. The best
is the man who's won the Gold Cup. Mate.
Yeah. No, I only got dogs as always. I've always owned dogs.
Would you rather have dogs and horses?
Oh, Ali, they'd be daft. I only bought horses for my mum, not for me. I never owned. None of the horses were in my name, and it was more the people with the horses. The dogs are the dogs.